Today I'm going to cover Microsoft Security Center, Windows 10, new privacy updates, Windows 10, and password managers for all devices. And of course, I can be reached at my Jere Minich, APCUG.org email. Starting off with Microsoft Security Center, I'm using Windows 10 version 1809 for this presentation, and many of the screenshots that you see on the presentations, all three of them are from my PC, taken recently within the last 4 or 5 days. In my own opinion, humble as it may be, Microsoft has finally started to work diligently on making the computer systems that they control more secure. And that's some of the things I'm going to touch on today, and you can see what's happening. They're good about ransomware now, and of course, for a antivirus, I'm running Windows Defender. I like it, it does the job, and I'm happy with it. But we need to go into device security to see some of the things that are happening in the Microsoft Security Center. And you get to device security by going into settings, and you're also in, once you get into settings, click on update and security, and then go down and click on Windows security, and you see over there in the middle of the screen, device security, no action needed, and you can click on that. Now, what is the security features that have now been given to everyone, where in the past they have only been given to enterprise computer systems, i.e. schools, large corporations, etc. Core isolation, security processor, and secure boot. Core isolation is sort of like a sandbox kind of concept, if you want to look at it that way. Security processor has to do with the chips and the CPU chips and how they are helping to protect you. And of course, secure boot is when you boot up, we only allow you to boot up with a device that has been checked out and make sure it belongs to Windows. So a little bit about core isolation. Again, core isolation means we're isolated from the normal operating system when we do certain functions, like running very important system processes and security software. Virtualization in this area hides the physical characteristics, and that also gives you an additional layer of protection. Security processor. In the past, they discovered a couple of years ago that we had all CPUs made in the last 20 years were susceptible to a backdoor type of malware, and they dubbed those Meltdown and Spectre. So the security processor is, in fact, Microsoft's way of saying, we're going to cover that until we get to the point where the manufacturers can make CPUs that don't have any vulnerabilities. So this gets to be quite complex in some areas, but be aware of the fact that you have some firmware updates and Windows 10 updates that help you and your PC to be protected. What's a secure boot? Well, when you boot up your machine or when you restart your machine, we have to know that the boot or the restart boot is in fact trusted from the system, and it has not been adjusted by some malware. Many of us who have been around computers for a long time understand BIOS, basic input-output system, but now they have this new system called UEFI. And again, we want to block out any rootkits that are getting into your system. So if a secure boot is enabled, the digital signature must be one that we're aware of. Otherwise, your boot will be stopped. How do you enable these different things? Well, in order to enable core isolation, you go through these 6 steps. Let me show you those on my screenshots from my computer. You're going to start over here on the left-hand side, and you'll click Start. Then you'll click the settings symbol. And then when you get this display, you'll go down here and click Update and Security. When you get to Update and Security, this screen will pop up, and you're in Update and Security with settings up here, and you go down and click on Windows Security. And of course, this little bar over here to the side shows you what area you are in Windows Settings, Update and Security. Now, if you go over here to the center of the screen and click on Device Security, you'll come up to the next display. And this is what device security looks like. And here is your core isolation, security processor, and secure boot. Now, the words that you see on the screen here under core isolation is because I have turned it on already. Virtualization-based security is running. Down at the security processor, you can click on the security processor details and find out what kind of CPU unit you have in your device. And secure boot, you can, again, learn more about it, but it's on my computer, and so I feel good about booting up my computer and getting the original boot that came with Windows. In addition, Microsoft has come up with exploit protection and controlled folder access. And again, now all Windows users have exploit protection, where in the past some did not, like Home and Pro. Controlled folder access, I'm going to get into this a little bit, and you can check this out and know what folders are being protected. And you can add folders to that list of ones that are, in fact, being protected. Again, we go into Start, Settings, and click here on App Browser. And when you scroll down to the bottom of Exploit Protection, you will see it here at the bottom of the screen. We're under Windows Security, App and Browser Control, scroll, Exploit Protection Settings. And when you click there, now, There you go. This kind of screen comes up, and you can see the system settings, control, flow, guard, data execution prevention, force randomization for images, and whether they're on or off. And you can find out more about these and turn them on or turn them off. And as you can see, some of them are on by default and some of them are off by default. My recommendation is you go in here, see what those settings are, and make sure you're happy with that. Also, ransomware protection and controlled folder access. Again, you go into Windows Security from the start, Settings, Update and Security, Windows Security, then click on Virus and Threat Protection, and you'll get to the controlled folder access. If you click on the blue line under the on-off toggle, you'll see what folders are protected, and let me show you what they look like on my laptop. And of course, these are the ones that are protected, and you can add other ones to that list of protected folders. This is a good thing. I want these things. I don't have any music on my PC, but if I would have music there, I want all these things protected in those folders that are on my computer. And if you click on the Add Other Folders, then of course you go to the File Explorer and you can designate other folders that you want added to that list, and they will automatically be added. Microsoft Security Essentials, or Microsoft Windows Defender. And they keep on changing the name, good old Microsoft, but what you need to do is make sure that you have the icon for Microsoft Windows Defender or Security Essentials down here on your taskbar, way over here by the right-hand side. If it's not down here on the taskbar, you can click on this little up arrow here. You can see it, and you can drag it down and put it on your taskbar. Every time I start my computer, I look down here after it's running for a couple minutes to make sure I got the green check mark and everything is okay. Yesterday I had a yellow exclamation point, so I went into Microsoft Security Essentials or Windows Defender, whichever you want to call it, and I ran a scan and then it turned green. Again, we're in Windows Security, and you get there by going to Settings and then Update and Security and Windows Security. And you see the different categories here: virus and threat protection, account protection, firewall, etc. I could go through each one of these and give you my opinion on what you should do, but that's not the point here. The point is you need to go into your computer, you need to check out every one of these different categories, and you need to make a decision on whether or not you like the settings that are there. That's your security settings. And I'm saying yes, even though Microsoft may say no action needed, okay, that may not be what you want. So I have, in fact, have gone into virus and threat protection, and I find out that I got some toggle here that I can turn on or off for real-time protection, cloud delivered protection, etc. Some of these things are turned off by Microsoft. You have to turn them on. Every time you download and install and update, to your PC from Microsoft, you need to go in and check these things to make sure they have not changed. That's important. Besides security, there's privacy. And again, I'm using my laptop Windows version 1809. And you got to make sure that the privacy settings that you once set up are in fact still valid. And as you go into those things, if you sign in as an administrator account, then it makes it just a little bit easier. But you can change the settings anytime you want by going to the Start button, then Settings, and then Privacy. There is a very good explanation of all these different settings at that reference on the bottom. And of course, the shorter one down here is a bit.ly reference that takes you to the same spot. So if you need to go in there and find out more information, that's a good place to go. Here's what it looks like. We're looking at settings, privacy, general. And again, there are some things in here that Microsoft sets one way and you may set another way. And of course, when we're talking about advertising IDs up at the top, what we're talking about is resetting your advertising ID. So if you turn this off, because Microsoft certainly turns it on, then you reset your advertising ID. And what it means is you won't get future advertisements that are personalized based on your activity with the apps or with Windows. You will not stop all advertisements, but you won't get personalized advertisements. Now I'm going to show you two examples. Already I showed you general and what is listed there, and you need to check those things out individually. And then you go down to activity history. And here again, I'm showing you an example of what the activity history settings look like in privacy. I'm in settings, I'm in privacy, activity history, and Microsoft has both of these checked. So I say, yes, I want to store activity on my device, but no, I don't need to send my activity history to Microsoft. And you have to make those choices yourself. And then again, down here, we have a toggle on off switch for sending account activity for my timeline via jerethrive10@gmail.com. If you go down here to the bottom and you click on Manage My Microsoft Account Activity Data, then you get into, here's the activity data that Microsoft is in fact monitoring. There's a lot of stuff here. And of course, Microsoft says, we collect all this stuff because we want to make it benefit you and to make your experience with our operating system better. Okay, whatever that means, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of those activities that I have turned off. You need to go in also and look at the permissions you give apps on your machine. And permissions we're talking about is whether or not they have access to your camera, access to your private precise location, your contacts, your account info. Can they run in the background, etc. And we get there the same way we have so far. We go to settings, we click on privacy, we go to app permissions, we select an app, and we make some changes to it if that's what we want to do. Here's a picture of that right off my laptop. And I picked on location. So now I'm in settings, I'm in privacy, but I'm down here in app permissions, and I picked on location, and some desktop apps want to know what your location is. Well, that's up to you. There's a pretty good explanation of what all that means up here, and I choose the fact that that's okay with me, that they know what my location is. Let me give you another example. When you scroll down from that page that I was just on, this one here, when you scroll down, you're going to see a list on your machine of all the apps that you have that want your location, and you can turn them on or off individually. Normally, when you go down here for the first time, you'll see that they're all on. Every one of them is turned on. And so I went through there and I said, Facebook doesn't need to know where I'm at. My camera doesn't need to know where I'm at, etc., etc. I can't scroll down, but that gives you an idea. There are other apps listed on here, and as you can see over here on the left-hand side, you can do this for your camera, microphone notifications, account info, contacts, calendar, on down the line, keep on going. You should, in fact, go through every one of these app permissions and turn them on or off. If you go to a category over here and there is nothing listed over here, then you don't have any apps that are requesting that information. I went down to account info. And again, as you can see from my computer, I turned off email and accounts. I turned off speed test. But I left Microsoft Edge and Microsoft Content on so that they have my account information. Now, what is account information? The things I list over here in my little yellow box. Oh, by the way, if you turn off a permission to an app and you go ahead and use that app, and that app now wants you to turn that permission back on, you'll get a pop-up on the app, and it says, in order for us to do our job correctly, you have to turn on the following, or something to that effect. Contacts. Of course, I'm very choosy about contacts because I want to make sure that I'm not giving out people's contact information that I have to just anybody. So I turn contacts off for everything except mail and calendar. And again, you need to go in and check out each one of these categories over here to make sure that your privacy is set up the way you want it. And there's a whole lot of them over there that have not been there before. I want to go back for a second. That's an interesting one. Background apps. This is interesting right here because background apps says what apps do you have on your machine that you're going to let them update or send out notifications, etc., while you may not even be using them. And you need to go in and check that, especially if you use your laptop on its battery. Because if background apps are all on and you're using your laptop on the battery, then you can wear down your battery and run out of power. So it's important to check that one if you are a laptop user. Oh, by the way, iPhones and iPads have been doing that for a long time. So I think Microsoft got pretty smart about that. Password managers. I have a password manager. I'm going to talk about them in general, and then I'm going to give you some prime examples of how I use my password manager. The internet seems to be going to, a lot of people on the internet anyway, phrases instead of just numbers and letters. Password phrases. And I'm starting to use those too, where I'm allowed to by the different website. But I have a password manager, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, the one I use. They store information. And in most password managers, what you have to do is enter your user ID and your password one time. And then once the password manager has it, then in fact, you never have to enter it again. You have to turn on your password manager by using the master password, and that's the one you got to remember. In most cases with password managers, if you forget the master password, no help. So password managers work on all types of websites. They're secure access, and they're saved in a vault usually, and it's a whole lot safer, and it can be portable in most cases to where you can use those passwords on your portable devices, like my iPhone that just rang a minute ago, and my iPad, and my Kindle, etc. Most browsers do have password managers built into them, but there's some drawbacks to that. And they certainly can't compete with a good password manager that has cross-platform syncing and also generating a password for you if you don't want to generate one yourself. So I stay away from password managers that are built into a browser, because if somebody hacks your browser, they may have access to your passwords. Giving you just a little time to read through all this. Locally installed software applications, online services, or hardware devices are the three categories most prevalent in password managers. I'm using one that has online services, so in order to deal with a password, I have to have internet access. I also have a hardware device that I use occasionally when I'm on travel, and that is handy. I use LastPass. I've used LastPass for the, well, they said, okay, they said I first logged in 2006. I just found that out yesterday. I thought I'd only been using it for about 6 years, but apparently longer than that. It's cloud-based. LastPass does not know what my master password is, so they can't see what my passwords are or what my entries are. I have it downloaded into Mozilla Firefox. That's the browser I use, and it's an app on my iPhone, iPad. And it still allows me to do two-factor authentication, etc. If you go to use LastPass and you want to turn it on, notice up here in the upper right hand corner the LastPass symbol, and it's grayed out, which means that I have to turn it on. So I click on it, this pop-up comes up, I enter it remembers my email, so my email is up here, and then I enter my password, and then I click log in, and through the internet it goes out and it says, okay, that's the master password, it's good, and that icon turns red. Now when I go to Amazon.com, I can either enter my address, or my address may pop up already and it says, what's your password? LastPass gives me this little symbol over here saying I have one password for Amazon. And so I click on that symbol, it puts the password in, I click on sign in. Now, LastPass as a password manager also allows you to have that all done automatically. I like to control it myself. I like to see it done, not be done automatically. Here's another example of LastPass. This is a website for greeting cards that Joyce's use, and Joyce and I share the same LastPass program. We only have one email and one password. Now, the benefit of that, of course, is that both Joyce and I are in our late 70s, and if something happens to Joyce, she's got, I have access to all of her passwords for her websites and vice versa. Just recently, the national news had a situation where a CEO of a corporation passed away, and there was millions of dollars on his computer, and he was using a password manager, and nobody knew how to get into his computer. So the corporation may, in fact, end up losing millions of dollars, somewhere between 135 and 150. That was on the national news, also in the newspapers. LastPass, and you can just see the symbol up here in the right-hand corner, is red. I click on it, and this drop-down menu comes down, and now I can open my vault. I can go to specific sites. I can see my secure notes. LastPass will also allow you to put information in so that when the form comes up for you to fill out for a website, it'll fill out that information. It'll generate secure passwords, and it's showing that I have 6 matching sites. And down here, I blacked in what my email address is. Once I open up from that previous slide, in other words, once I open my vault, this kind of display comes up, and the favorites pops up, and it has my email address for those favorites in each one. And of course, it's showing sites. I can go to secure notes. I can go to form fills, security challenge, sharing center, whatever. A lot of different capabilities here. Joyce and I have 132 websites in LastPass and 104 secure notes. And what I do, if I want to launch the website, I either click on the little wrench here, and then it shows me a view of what the URL, the address bar will be for that website. It also shows me what my user ID and password are. I can delete it if I want to. I can share it with other people in my family if I want to. Or I can go up here and I can click on launch, and LastPass will in fact launch that site for me. I'm going to talk a little bit about secure notes. I'm going to not talk about the rest of the things here. Here's an example of a secure note. Just recently, I got a Apple Watch Series 4, and I wanted that information on my computer, so if my watch ends up being lost, stolen, or strayed, or whatever, I have that information still available to me so that I can make some steps and try to secure it. There's lots of different ways that you can put in secure notes. You have different categories. You can add an attachment to the secure note. You can copy and paste into the secure note. Again, we have 104 secure notes in our LastPass. And up here in the URL for LastPass, all I did was type in Apple Watch, and it brought it up for me. If you go to the internet and you say, what are the best free password managers for 2018, and which ones do I have to pay for, you are going to find that probably these 4 password managers will come up on that list. And this doesn't vary much. Month after month after month, I see the same thing coming up from different magazines, PC World, PC Magazine, etc. And what do they offer? I like the online syncing. If I make a change to a password on my computer, the next time my iPad or iPhone gets online, that's updated. And of course, yes, you can share this information with your trusted family, friends. I frequently use the autofill functionality when I'm going to a new website. This came out of PC Magazine just the other day, and these are ones that you pay for. I'm grandfathered in on the LastPass. I paid for it when it was half that price, $24, and I think they just recently went up again. But anyway, there's the top 9 or 10 right there. If you say to the internet, give me the free password managers, then this kind of list comes up. And it has many of the same password managers that we saw on the previous page. But if it's free, then you get a few less goodie box. You get a few less capabilities out of it. I can't say enough about password manager. In my estimation, I feel very secure about my passwords, and that's because I use a password manager. Now, another thing that LastPass does for me, if I go in and open up LastPass, I can say to it, run a check on all my passwords and tell me which ones have been compromised, i.e., which ones somebody busted into, which ones are weak, which ones should I change. That's what that security check was all about. And LastPass does that for me. And my passwords for Dropbox were compromised. And my password for Walmart was compromised. So I went in and changed those.
Okay, well, we did have one question.
Uh-oh.
Back from when you were talking about the security settings, Paul asks, are all these security settings part of Windows Defender? Or can I access and adjust most of the settings if I do not use Windows Defender?
And the answer is yes. Okay. Some of them have ties to the antivirus that Microsoft puts out, and some of them don't. Okay. And in fact, many of them don't. So the security settings are really antivirus independent in a great many cases.
A gentleman says that he has Dashlane already on his computer, but he'd like to check out LastPass. Can he run both of them at the same time?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
They have no interaction between them. You can run as many as you want at the same time. Now, we're not talking about antiviruses. We're talking about program managers, password managers.